minority, which farmers say would plunge the region into a depression.
You know, it's 1,000 cups of coffee.
It's all about relationships, says Brenda Smith, who directs a nonprofit that mediates natural resource conflicts. Building consensus this way is slow work.
But if you're going to fight about it, we don't have that time either.
For the last 3 years, they've been coming together regularly for meals and meetings. Farmers like Owens, who want to make changes slowly, sit across from homeowners like Felix who aren't too fast.
The first place he was going to visit after the inauguration was CIA. Naive me, I thought, well, perhaps my message got through to it. Not so.
This is my first stop, officially.
His first full day in office after weeks of mocking intelligence officials, the president's motorcade rolled out to CIA headquarters. He told staffers there he was now with them, 1,000%.
Maybe sometimes you haven't gotten the backing that you wanted, and you're going to get so much backing. Then you're going to say, please don't give us so much backing.
So far, so good. But at some point, standing in what the CIA considers sacred space.
Where is Copeland? Where is he?
Videos.
Bring it here, Copeland. Copeland, bring it here. Copeland, bring it here. Bring it here. Come on, bring it here, Copeland. Come on, Copeland. Mazel. Hi, Mazel. Hi, kitty. Okay.
piece of chicken left.
1 cooked and then 10 uncooked.
Doing your video.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a video. It's a great video. If you want to I pressed the wrong button.
This is an interesting experience, tuning a piano with a dust mask on. It's an N95 for those who are interested. Never tuned a piano all the way through with a mask on. So anyway, I guess new things are good once in a while. This piano is very clean. I'm only wearing this because of the present virus problem. But the experience, he's asked me to think of things that are interesting to say. Decades ago, I worked on a piano in India, Bangalore, India, and it was a basket case by any standard. It was really a mess. I got about 4.5 octaves out of the middle of it to actually play with a musical sound and be in sort of a tuning that sounded musical. And the students at the school where this piano was thought I'd worked a miracle. If I had done the same thing here in the U.S. and claimed that I'd fixed the piano, I would have been kicked out of town for being a fraud. But it's all perspective. And I'm delighted that we're going to have a great pianist play this thing tonight. Make music I'm hoping everybody enjoys. And I can't believe that I got to be in on this little exercise.
Welcome to Emerson Avenue Salons. We're trying to be creative in these frightening and terrible times to do something that we can continue the salon series. And so we came up with this Salonline idea, and Bill has worked very hard with all the technical details to make it come to pass. So we hope that we can have a series that goes as long as we need it until we can get back to our regular format. Thank you so much for calling in.
Here. Hello and welcome to our very first Emerson Avenue Salonline. I want to thank all of you who made this possible and the many of you who sent words of encouragement. Vesta, Florence Broadkey, Elaine Sorreo, Nancy Finken, Beck Dickerson, Doreen Marr, thanks for the wine, Donna Christensen, Nicola Paskalov, Carol Chandler, and Wendell Swan. It's a pleasure, as always, to invite you into our beautiful home. Although at this point, in fact, the salon room, which would usually be full of chairs at this time, is rather a mess of wires and computer equipment. Here's what it looks like. I'd like to spend a moment explaining the technology that makes this all possible. But before that, I want to especially thank my son Nick, who put up with a raft of idiotic questions while he was studying for a math exam. For those of you who aren't into technical details, just skip ahead a few minutes. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I guess you can't. Basically, I have 2 helium fusion reactors powering a clinastican dynamometer feeding into an array of convolutional encoding delinearizing magnetomizers. Okay, actually, I have no idea how this stuff works. If you really want to know, ask my son Nick, and blame him if this thing comes crashing down in the middle of Alex's performance. Anyway, what matters most is that I learned a lot doing this, so hopefully and now I'm not as stupid as you remember. One of the most important things I learned is that this is not a podcast. This is a podcast. Mostly, we'd like to thank those of you who won't be making dishes to wash, needing extra forks, or asking where the trash is. Are we ready yet? Now, I realize many of you are now wondering, when is he going to start asking for money? Well, your wait is over. You can send any denomination to my PayPal account, viewing2@gmail.com. Drop me a note at the same time, like for instance, I'm sending $10,000, $5,000 is for Alex, $4,000 for Jackie, and the other $1,000 is to be distributed among the 6 cats. Wait, that doesn't work. Make it $9,600. Remember also that Alex has a bunch of great CDs featuring him and his warblers, Doug, Jennifer, and Carrie, and we are now mailing CDs. Just include an extra $2.50 and your address. Act now and we'll include a free secret decoder ring. It's actually only a twist tie, but it's sized to fit any finger, 100% washable, and cats like to play with them, and they keep your bread fresh. So now I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who will hopefully introduce himself. During the performance, we request that if you sneeze, do it into your arm, and if you spill your glass of red wine, just use seltzer water to clean the rug. If you have comments or questions, leave them in the chat box at the side and at the end before we break for our usual elaborate feast. We'll read them out loud and get Alex's reaction, so don't be in a hurry to close the stream. Alex is a wonderful pianist, but his mind, if you don't know him, yikes. Actually, let me change that. We're going to do Zoom. So if you go to the webpage, emersonavenuesalons.com, the second link I have on the front page is a Zoom thing. We're going to have a Zoom teleconference. Any of you can dial in, turn your cameras on. You'll be muted and you have to get permission from me to enter. And then after 40 minutes, Zoom will automatically close that stream. So I think we have another one starting up half hour later. What does that make it? 9 o'clock? Anyway, if I did it all right, there will be 2 Zoom conferences. If we need more than that, good luck. Somebody else start one. Bye.
Okay.
Evening, people. Well, friends, relations, as I usually say, extraterrestrials, anybody willing to listen tonight. This is the inaugural streaming concert in the Emerson Avenue Salon series, which has been going on for, well, maybe my 2 friends here will tell us how long. Or as in the great Joyce Grenfell's monologue when she says, "Will the 2 of you please come closer?" Anyway, I'm delighted to be the very first, the guinea pig in this whole series of, well, ethereal concerts. It's I can sort of understand how Stephen Colbert a few weeks ago, when he had the Zippo audience in front of him, had to try to somehow act as if there is an audience in front of him. I'm not as worried really. I'm going to treat it maybe I'm like I'm in a recording studio and ain't no audience anyway. Those of you who know me, know that I'm fascinated by the part of the Great American Songbook that never had a chance. The songs that might not have gotten sung by any of the big names, whether they're Crosby or Alice Faye, you name them, Judy Garland. The songs that may only have ended up manuscripts, maybe even lead sheets as copyright registrations at the Library of Congress. So that's what I want to give you a few examples tonight. We have about an hour. I'm going to try to cram in as much as I can, as little of my shtick as possible, unless it's proven that the shtick is more appropriate than my playing, but that, we'll see what the audience prefers. But let me, the first thing you heard was probably the most famous of the film critic music fanfares. That's the 20th Century Fox fanfare by Alfred Newman. I believe the uncle or grandfather of songwriter Randy Newman. I know there's a relation somewhere, and next streaming I'll try to have done my homework. But let's get into the first number here. The first number is called This Is the Way It Starts. So a perfect title to start a program. It's by my favorite songwriter of all, a fellow named Vernon Duke. He was christened Vladimir Dukelsky in Russia, the earliest part of last century. And when he got here, he finds out that Broadway makes him more money than writing Symphony No. 2 or Song Cycle No. 3. And Gershwin tells him, call yourself Vernon Duke. Anyway, this is a lonely manuscript of the Library of Congress. The lyric was supposed to have been written by a fellow named Yip Harburg, who went on to write the entire lyrics to Wizard of Oz in 1939. This song is 1932. It's in the folder for a review called Americana. Americana had a very famous song debut in it. Brother, can you spare a dime? Well, what about all the other songs written for Americana? Here's one that probably never made it to Yip Harburg, because the producer probably heard it and said, not what I had in mind. And that's why nobody can find Yip Harburg's lyric. Not even my friend at the Harburg Foundation, Nick Markovich. Someday, Nick, let's hope. Now, probably not what a producer might have expected to start a show. You know, you start a show with doing, get the audience really happy. Perhaps This Is the Way It Starts was destined to be some sort of a love affair. This is the way it starts. Makes more sense with a really high romantic melody like that. I sort of call this whole 1920s and 30s Hollywood and Broadway period the late romantic with a beat. You know, people like Rachmaninoff, they long since stopped writing these sorts of wonderful melodies 20, 30 years earlier. They were the last for Rachmaninoff, and everybody else is trying to prove their creds to the academic critics of the sort of 20th century, much more atonal style of music by the time Broadway and Hollywood songwriters are doing their thing. Anyway, to continue, here's an English show tune. It's called It'll Take a Little Time, a show called Sitting Pretty in 1939. Has nothing to do with the Ginger Rogers early 1930s Paramount flick called Sitting Pretty. Here we have an American who went over to England named Manning Sherwin. And quite a good melodist. There were so many good melodists here, he decided he was going to try to make it there. And I can't rightfully say he did, but he produced a lot more in England than he did here. And this one, It'll Take a Little Time, is a duet and I'm gonna have to get some of my warbler buddies to do this in some future concert. Meanwhile, solo piano rendition. Thank you, you two. And you two are Jackie Anderson and Bill Ewing, two of my very favorite friends from a long way back. And any more, we can email about it at some other point. I think they'll forgive me for that. Okay, 1929 finds Harold Arlen writing the score for an old black revue called Brown Sugar. A couple of songs got published to this, but by and large, it's another one of these things. It came and it went. I was fortunate enough to have enough connections in the grapevine to get a few more tunes from this that had never been copyrighted properly. I mean, copyrighted means they send a copy to the Library of Congress, and it's stamped with a number, and it's put into a satellite library over the years in Landover, Maryland. Or if somebody is smart enough, they put it into the main collection. But as it is, these never even made it for copyright. What I was able to look at through the auspices of a friend in Manhattan, Mike Levine. Hey buddy, thank you so much. Anyway, this one is called Misbehavin' Hips. It is not a song, it was a tap dance. And if I had done my homework before starting to play for you tonight, I would have been able to name the tap dancer who does this number in Brown Sugar. And I'm sure I'll hear about this because periodically I can remember these things. Tonight, fortunately, I'm playing reasonably well because I'm moderately plastered. Did I say that? Okay. Misbehavin' Hips. of makes you want to hear the rest of the show, but only 2 published, and most of this stuff exists only in lead sheet. That means a melody, and maybe a lyric, and likely no harmonies. So you are either really well versed in the period, what sorts of chords are used in 1929, what sorts of chords are used in 1935. You do that, and it takes an total immersion therapy for I can't tell you how long. You're listening to recordings, you're listening to soundtracks on TCM, and sight reading everything in Insight. And maybe you get there. Anyway, I used to really poo-poo these sorts of lead sheets. I'm thinking, well, it's got a melody. What am I going to do with it? Well, you find out that the more experience you have playing pieces of the time, and gosh, guess what? You really the fingers start to know, muscle memory. You start to realize, oh yeah, that chord will work perfectly well with this particular melody. Alrighty. One of my won'ts, W-O-N-T-S, is to create long medleys. And they can be of composers, they can be of movie titles, Broadway titles. In this case, it's not going to be one of my Gustav Mahler-Link medleys. That may be later. We'll see how much time we have. Right now, I'd like to give you 3 songs from a 1930 Blackbirds musical. And the Blackbirds were entirely black casts. The songwriters could have been black musicians of the time. They could have been white musicians of the time. In this case, U.B. Blake and Andy Razaf, 2 of the real premier people on Broadway and in, well, I suppose vaudeville too, at the time, did an entire score for this Blackbirds production in 1930. 1 tune in this medley, 3 tunes. You will know, at least people who are immersed in this will know. The tunes are called That Lindy Hop, which has nothing to do with the swing dance that came later. Remember, this is 1930. Then there is Memories of You. That's the tune that became something of a jazz standard. And it ends with a song that only exists in manuscript called Waking Up the Folks Downstairs. And how do you wake up the folks downstairs? The lyric is really amusing. You know that you're waking up the folks downstairs with your late night party when their paintings start falling off the wall and the plaster starts cracking. So, those 3 tunes in a medley. laugh, Blackbirds of 1930, there are a ton of more songs from said show, and I thought I would give you a good cross-section of the best stuff. All right, continuing, a little bit of a sad sort of a tune here. 1938 is when Sam Goldwyn is filming the Goldwyn Follies, and it's a Gershwin score. Love Walked In, oh gosh, once again, I'll do my homework better next time. That's that and another one of the main tunes from that. Well, what happened to the other tunes? Because in the middle of production, Gershwin dies. Now, writing for the same movie is Vernon Duke, my fave guy. And he is just as saddened and, really grief-stricken as the rest of the crew there. And he's obviously asked to contribute a little bit more to make up for the fact that Gershwin didn't complete the score. Now, Duke wrote some ballet music for that. There was one published song called Spring Again, but one of the melodies in the ballets, Ira Gershwin wrote a lyric, but Ira was grieving. Probably not the greatest lyric, but the song, the melody by Duke, I think is a keeper. So here is I'm Not Complaining, which was cut, unfortunately, not necessarily melodically, but in terms of the song, from the Goldwyn Follies, 38. I so happy here to be. Come on, let's hear some laughs here. I get no respect. Forgive me, folks. Alrighty. Alright, a little bit of a show-offy number now. 1931, a fellow named Ali Rubel sends in a lead sheet for a copyright deposit called Dancing Debutantes. and it's got a lyric, but you know, I'm more interested really melodically and see what I can do. I can Hassanize it in some way. And sure enough, this one is one of those really rollicking, catchy numbers that should have made it. But once again, too many rollicking, catchy numbers were being written at the same time. Ali Rubel is really best known. The Lady in Red. That made him some money. Probably sent in, had the royalties coming in for a good number of years. Well, Dancing Debutantes. I don't know why he sent it in. Was it meant for a movie at some point? Can't possibly know anymore. But here is a somewhat resurrected and arranged by yours truly, Ali Rubel tune. So good of you, dear people. Okay, well, we have a little time left for a Gustav Mahler-Link fantasy here. Harry Warren, probably everybody's really one of top favorite songwriters of the 20s and 30s, into the 40s even. And every other hit parade number seems to be by this guy. He was originally born Salvatore Guaragna, and he gets here in Hollywood, calls him Harry Warren. He probably had more royalties coming in by calling himself Harry Warren. So I decided years ago to come up with a fairly lengthy. It's very difficult to keep a fantasy on themes of Harry Warren to 2 minutes. So for the next probably 10 or so, I hope I can keep your attention with the grand fantasy on themes of Salvatore Guaragna. greatly obliged. How many fingers are left? How are we doing here? How are we doing?
Can I make a request?
Do it.
That you tell us your story, your how you learned music and what you did
Okay.
to get to this?
Beloved Jackie has just come up with a question that really I should be telling you. I grew up in New York, 1950s and 60s. My father taught me to play, 1960s. And he was taught by his great aunt, Aunt Ruth. Aunt Ruth studied with a fellow named Alexander Lambert, probably in the 1920s. and Lambert was a Liszt pupil. So, I'm a pupil of a pupil of a pupil of a pupil. Pupil to the fourth power of Franz Liszt. What it means is that in some way you become a pianist, whether you're doing this, whether you're doing Vladimir Horovitzian things on grand concert stages, playing with community orchestras, you somehow you feel you're going to master the instrument in some manner. It was a tried and true method of study. My father had kept all of the books that he had learned from to get to a certain level of technique. He had high hopes to play better than he did. So did the aunt. The aunt didn't have the temperament for concert pianism. My father had a 9-to-5 job in the Gov. And along comes Alex, who also had a 9-to-5 job in the Gov, but always able to pursue the passion, which is what you're hearing tonight. It's a great pleasure to be able to play this sort of stuff for modern audiences. Modern audiences don't know what to make of advertising for this kind of music. Oh, I'm playing this wonderful old music for you tonight. Well, most considerably younger or even younger people say, well, what is that? You mean the stuff my grandma or something to that effect? Well, once they get in the audience, though, and they see the wonderful melodies, the toe-tapping, bouncy rhythms, and when I'm working with my singing friends, Doug Bowles and Jennifer Timberlake, it's even more of a sort of a wonderful symbiotic feeling between audience and the performers. So, well, Jackie, what do you think? Did that Merlot really make me somewhat lucid tonight? I'm rather pleased. These things would ordinarily take 3 sentences and they're becoming William Faulkner. Okay, so anyway, are we okay on any timing? Or you want I should maybe conclude with...
I'm following the clock behind you, 7:20, so you got 10 more minutes?
I got 10 more minutes. Good. All right. Now, one of the closing numbers today is actually probably credit music for a late 1930s Warner Brothers film called Call It a Day. It actually got sent in as a copyright deposit. As a song, I don't think it's sung in this movie, but I do believe that the music is actually heard in the background. Call It a Day, music by a fellow named M.K. Jerome, who'll never be a name again, but boy, did he know how to write a tune when it was needed in the 1930s for Warner Brothers. Terrific numbers. And he could really churn them out, one after another, really good one. So, Call It a Day. They're much simpler, but really quite, I think, almost melancholy. And the song is called Listen. But it's probably not meant to be done this way. It's just called Listen. It's by a fellow named Gene Schwartz, who goes back to the ragtime era. And in 1921, he has penned this number. Back in November of 2018, when the late great Johnny Maddox, popular pianist of the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, he passed away, and at the estate sale in his Gallatin, Tennessee home, 65,000 pieces of sheet music were left to take away, and in a 20-foot U-Haul, 5,000 pounds of sheet music, if you can even conjure that, came home with me. And as my wife and I were collating this stuff for 37 days straight, there were just a few numbers here and there that I decided to put on the sheet music rack that I've never seen before. This is one of them. There was just something about the look of it. I said, I need to try this one. Listen by Gene Schwartz. It's period, it's sentimental, and it really immediately struck me. Okay, I'd like to probably end, even though who knows what'll happen after this. I'll go into one of my 50-minute medleys. I'd like to end tonight's concert. I've actually composed my own sort of novelty piano piece. And as there are numerous cats wandering around this house, this is a tune that is sort of dedicated to the cute she's been with us for a while, but little orange cat that we decided to call Citra. Now my wife Sarah is big into craft beers, so in craft beers you have something called Citra hops. Probably non-craft beers too, but I only know craft beers here. So we named the cat Citra, little orange cat, very cute. For some reason, she's devoted to me. I don't know what gives. But I feel privileged. So we call it Citra. So, and then another thing about beer is they have hops, right? Citra hops. This is called the Citra hop. Okay, and this is a modern, maybe a modernization of Kitten on the Keys. I don't allow the cats anywhere near the piano at home, but if they were, and if little Citra was roaming over the keys, perhaps it may be something like this. Thank you, and until the next ethereal transmission.
So you have a bunch of online comments if you wanna, you're still on, buddy.
Wow.
You don't wanna stand there and answer questions? Or?
Oh. Is that what are they hearing you say this?
Yeah,
Oh.
we're still on.
Okay. So I'm not actually going to hear voices. I'll be answering questions to
Right, I can read
a
you
rather
some-
impersonal web.
How about until I figure out how to get Zoom going, I'm gonna read you some comments.
Okay.
And let's see, I thought I had it here ready to go. So, I don't know if you know these people. What am I having?
Well, I suspect a good number of them.
Yeah, one guy is named.
They're either going to be your salonistas here.
Well, there are those. There's one called Harry Warren Fan.
Okay.
I think you know who he is.
Well, I'm sure.
He compliments on you on your social distancing.
Very good. I almost wore a mask, but there's just too many notes in my arrangements, and if I had a mask on, I know I'd screw everything up.
He mentioned that Harry Warren's name on his birth certificate was Salvatore De Luca. Blame that on the.
Okay, that's David Jenkins, my good buddy in North Carolina. Davey, I hope you enjoyed my tribute to the great guy himself, HW, as we called him in our emails. David is the preeminent scholar on said composer, songwriter.
So someone, he requested copyrighted song, I Learned to Love You When I Learned My ABCs.
Well, that's Harry Warren's first, I believe, copyright deposited song. But I am in no position to be the expert on the minutia of HW. That is much more my friend in Carolina. That's North Carolina.
Lloyd Davies says, Misbehaving Hips featured dancing specialties by Cora Lorette and the Ebony Steppers.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you.
And
Lloyd is a good friend up in Calgary.
he says, the Cotton Club Brown Sugar Sweet But Unrefined Review, aka Blackberry's Crop of 1931.
Cora Lorette. Yeah, I wish I could remember that. She actually shows up in a Vitaphone short. You can actually see her prancing around the stage. Must have been a totally delightful person to watch.
Jim Simcock says, if you're taking requests, anything in the boogie woogie genre?
No. You do what you do best, and there are any number of pianists who can play rings around me in that idiom.
Okay, I'm supposed to be turning on a Zoom conference, but I can't talk and do that at the same time.
Remember, folks, I'm the guinea pig tonight. This is the first one, the
Yeah.
first streaming from the Emerson Avenue Salons.
That's it. Sign.
So far, so good.
Where did you learn to modulate?
Where did I learn
Modulation, so you could
From
go
one tune to-
any key
from one tune to another in various keys, going one from key to another, one key to another? A lot of it is muscle memory in the hands. They know where the fingers are supposed to be in one key, and they navigate to the correct chords and notes. But more than that is just sight reading and sight reading. Everything put in front of me over the years. My wife Sarah and I have about 55,000 pieces of sheet music on the shelves in our room here in Northern Virginia, and really it's purely experience. Learning how to do that after a while. There are various savant-like performers who can do that right from the get-go. It's taken me a good number of years, and I'm still not that is not my most expert thing. My most expert thing is trying to put 2,000 notes in a measure. Next.
I'm trying to start this Zoom meeting. You guys gotta talk.
He wants you and I should talk, Jackie. Let's see, the last time I went to a National Symphony concert, Stephen Huff was playing the Charvenka 4th Piano Concerto. Were you involved with that one? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie Anderson was in the second violin section for years. She doesn't quite want you to know how many years. No, really, she was one of those presences on stage that probably engendered numerous annual subscriptions. I think she knew how to play too, actually. No, really. By the way, this piano is a Kawai, 511, something like that? And best Kawai I've ever played. It's maintained by a really quite remarkable technician in the area, Dave Lamoureux, and he managed to get himself out of his domicile today, and a few hours before my performance tonight here, the piano got a good tuning, and this piano is just really pearls out of the soundboard when it's perfectly in tune, and I mostly know it perfectly in tune.
You're
Yeah.
gonna sell some CDs?
What is this? What you say?
We talked about this.
Something about CDs?
Yeah, you're gonna sell
Well, look, folksies, I'm playing for the husband and wife in this particular house who are recording me for this, and I did not bring CDs tonight. I have probably 7 or 8 that are available. There's enough stock, but just write to Bill Ewing or Jackie Anderson via the site that you're on right now, via EmersonAvenueSalons.com, and they can get you to me, and we can work out any kind.
it. Managed for.
Are they actually? Is anybody actually hearing me right now?
I don't. Well, the audio link for this is still open
Mm-hmm.
for the YouTube.
If anybody is hearing me, write to Bill.
So Dave Lamoureux just joined. Dave Rand is here. iPhone, I don't know who that is. I can see them. Think of it. It's George Corbin, but you can't see them.
George Foreman?
So somehow or another, I have. I didn't have this together at all.
Is this George?
Corbin.
George Corbin, yeah.
No,
Let's see if we can. That's oh, I can't remember. Well, this is a failed experiment because I can't figure out how to.
Oh boy.
You need sound. Oh, I have to enable the microphones. I
Okay,
guess.
once again, this is the first time.
it's Howard Frost.
Howard Frost, yes. Hi, Howard.
Okay, who is?
Howard Frost.
Howard Frost.
Unmute. Oh, I see. There's unmute.
Oh, it's Howard.
The
Heaven's sake,
problem is,
Howard,
we
good.
we didn't even set.
Hey, Howard. If you're, I don't know, that you? I think it's Howard. You hear me? I don't hear you.
Another thing is there's a 17-second delay between anything you say.
What is he, an
anything
Alpha
you're
Centauri?
gonna do. And then yeah, it bounces off the moon. And then, and we're meanwhile just watching
No.
the.
Now this
lights
and this
instead of watching
and
you.
this fellow is.
Bennett is what says,
Who is this one?
but I can't figure out where. Oh,
No,
this
no, it's
just
him.
didn't
Yeah,
work at
you're
all.
right. Yeah, Howard. I can't hear a thing on your end. We'll have to iron it out.
Yeah, I didn't think about the microphones. I mean, that you need to actually.
Yeah. Please don't blame it on me. It's entirely Bill's fault.
Yeah, we can go back to the written questions. I think that makes more sense.
Oh, okay. Well, good Lord. I don't want me in there.
Well, you are, like it or not. And you weren't for a while. For a while there, we were just watching a wall.
Oh boy.
Aaron Warren fan says, loud and clear, had a bit of lag in the video a moment ago, but otherwise good. Can you put the camera back on Alex or on you? Yeah. So you're there. You are. You are actually on. The
Okay.
And then this lag.
So what is it? So I am responding to questions on the right side of the screen here.
I was going to try to read them to you. So I was first off, I'm going to give you an idea of what you look like.
Folksies, I'm going to be here all night.
At this rate. Okay, back to the questions. I wish your head was in the picture.
Everybody wishes I had done something else. Oh well, what can I do?
Thanks for lots of people's thanking for the fun evening. You need to ask if they have any questions.
Next time I'll do the Hammerklavier Sonata. Maybe that'll do. In syncopation. Poor Beethoven.
So I think this is going to kind of crash closed.
Yeah, sorry, folksies. There'll be another time, by which point things will be ironed out, and we'll be able to do a lot of back and forth.
Oh, no, he's just saying, I wish your head was in the picture. Can you put the camera back on? Because I was.
Yeah.
Really,
So
really
anyway,
happy.
I'm gonna wish you all a very good evening. Please stay safe. Please stay well. I wanted to be a hell of a lot more of these opportunities as the weeks, months, and years are flying by. Alrighty?
Thanks. Bye.
Happy to perform.